Headlines. A minor was shot in the thigh during what appears to have been a drive-by shooting on Brook Boulevard just before 9:30 on September 5th. The victim tells police the shooter was driving a silver Chevrolet Camaro. So far, there's no update on any other suspect or the condition of the teen. In Fort Valley, violent crime is up 25% from this time last year, while the overall crime rate is down by 47%.
And the crisis is already here when it comes to nursing home shortages across the U.S. The lack of available beds hitting the growing senior population hard, especially since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Many facilities turning them away as they close their own doors. It's an uncertain future as older patients continue to wait longer and longer for care they may never receive.
Some lawmakers want to tighten up spending on the state's dual enrollment program. Dual enrollment allows public school students to take courses for college credit. The funding comes out of the state budget. By the way, Houston County boasts the state's highest number of students in the program with more than 2,700 students.
Download the WGXA News app or go to WGXAnews.tv for more on today's top stories.
Well, it's time now for a check on the Skywatch weather forecast with another day of rain, gray, Amanda, and storms.
Meteorologist Ryan Mirando says the rain and storms aren't out of the forecast yet. Ryan?
Exactly, Greg and Amanda. And we do have one severe thunderstorm warning out right now. This goes in place for another half hour or so. Includes portions of Houston, Twiggs, Bleckley, Pulaski, and Dodge County. There's frequent lightning, heavy downpours, and this is really for damaging winds. Still getting wind gusts potentially up to about 30 miles per hour. This is the kind of the wind structure of the storm. The brighter the red, the stronger those winds are coming through. So if you live in this area, you really want to get away from the windows in case of any of these damaging winds is over your way. But there's still a lot of storms out there right now. Lawrence County along 16 getting a few rumbles of thunder over Jeffersonville. Warner Robins still getting a little bit of a downpour, but even down by Perry, even a few more rumbles of thunder. These will be continuing on for the next few hours, but things will begin to quiet down as we get towards the overnight hours. This front that's stalled out still over top of us is giving some of those extra storms. Lee now spinning out over sea continues to push north. We will get a little bit of a breeze from this, but nothing really impacting us here. So for the school date's forecast for tomorrow, I think we will start out a bit rainy in the morning, so grab the umbrella out the door. But what this means as we get towards Friday night for the high school football plans, I'll break down all that coming up in your full forecast. Greg?
All right, Ryan, thank you. And download the free WGXA weather app to keep ahead of any storms. Just use the QR code on your screen. The app will download straight to your smartphone or smart device. Ryan's back in less than 20 minutes with your full forecast.
Breaking news tonight, President Biden's son Hunter has been indicted on 3 gun charges.
If convicted, he faces up to 10 years behind bars. Christine Frizzell brings us up to speed.
The charges stem from Hunter Biden's purchase of a firearm in October of 2018 and lying on the application about his drug use at the time. They come less than 2 months after he was set to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax charges and enter into a pretrial diversion agreement to avoid prosecution on the felony gun charge. Now it's clear he won't avoid it. Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer calling the charges a very small start.
Ironically, that's the one crime that he committed that you cannot tie Joe Biden into.
Federal prosecutor, now special counsel David Weiss, brought the charges following Republican criticism of his new role. The indictment comes as Republicans in Congress are demanding the president's son be issued a subpoena as part of their investigation into his business dealings. A probe that this week led Speaker Kevin McCarthy to the decision to launch an impeachment inquiry into President Biden for his alleged role in those business dealings.
Biden used his official office to coordinate with Hunter Biden's business partners about Hunter's role in Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company.
Questions about business and finances not part of this indictment, but central to the investigation in the House.
We're following $20 million of money that flowed into shell companies created by Hunter Biden. And currently, we don't have the data of where that money got spent.
Hunter Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell, responded to the indictment saying prosecutors filed charges today that they deemed were not warranted just 6 weeks ago following a 5-year investigation into this case, criticizing, quote, MAGA Republicans' improper and partisan interference in this process. Many Democrats pointing out the 3 charges against Hunter Biden pale in comparison to the 91 charges former President Trump is facing. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
Well, the White House has a new message for the media, and it's not sitting well with everyone. President Biden's team sent a letter encouraging journalists to be tougher on Republicans and their claims that Biden should be impeached over inappropriate or possibly criminal business dealings involving his son Hunter, who was indicted on gun charges today.
Is it intimidation or just a routine fight in Washington over who is right and who is wrong? Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman takes a look.
It is a battle between President Biden's White House and House Republicans, seemingly bound for an impeachment inquiry against the president. And now this letter from Biden's staff to national news executives aimed at affecting their coverage. A White House spokesperson writing, "It is time for the media to ramp up its scrutiny of House Republicans for opening an impeachment inquiry based on lies," adding, "Enclosed, you will find a 14-page appendix that comprehensively addresses the 7 key lies House Republicans are suggesting."
That's why we call it baseless. That's why I just called it baseless, because they have said themselves that there is no evidence. The evidence does not exist, and this is a political stunt.
Some, like constitutional attorney Jonathan Turley, worry that the letter is akin to White House marching orders for reporters. Others call it a traditional messaging tactic.
The job of a press secretary is to get the press to write exactly what the press secretary wants them to write. The job of the press is to get the press secretary to say something the press secretary doesn't want to say. And the tension is where the news is.
Former press secretary under George W. Bush, Dana Perino.
This is the preview of working the refs, okay? And also, here's the thing, a memo like this should not necessarily have to come out because this, as a PR person, this is your job.
One media critic posting, "This is not okay. The White House should not be encouraging, influencing, or interfering in the editorial strategies of America's newsrooms." Just last week, in a separate controversy, a court ruled the White House likely violated the First Amendment for trying to influence which posts about COVID social media companies should censor. And this latest fight over messaging unlikely to be the last.
The White House is trying to shape that story. Speaker McCarthy is trying to shape that story. All the candidates are trying to shape that story. That's what we do here in Washington.
I'm Scott Thuman.
Well, President Biden has a new term to describe the economic policies of his Republican opponents, Maganomics.
The idea is to accuse them of plotting attacks on Medicare, Social Security, and the middle class, as well as supporting tax cuts for the rich. Biden is giving a speech today in Maryland on the topic, and the White House gave a taste of how Biden might frame the rebrand.
He'll travel to Maryland to lay out the very clean contrast between Bidenomics and the congressional Republicans' trickle-down economic plan, a plan that has failed working families every time it's been tried. Instead of investing in the middle class, trickle-down shipped jobs overseas, hollowed out communities, and produced soaring deficits.
Bidenomics, a term the White House created, focuses on breaking up concentration in the U.S. economy along infrastructure investments and tax increases on the wealthy.
Meanwhile, Americans believe things are not going well in today's economy and that perhaps former President Donald Trump is the guy to turn it around. That's according to a new USA Today poll, which also finds 70% of Americans say the economy is getting worse. Just 22% say it's improving, and more Americans say they trust Trump at 47% to Biden, 36% to improve their economic situation. This as inflation inched upward earlier this week. Plus, former President Trump is dominating in primary polls nationwide, but he's also dominating in South Carolina, the state that is historically dictates who the GOP nominee will be. A Washington Post Monmouth University poll finds 46% of potential Republican primary voters in South Carolina support Trump. The state's former governor, Nikki Haley, is the closest to him at 18%. 10% support their senator, Tim Scott, and 9% back Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Well, former President Trump and 16 co-defendants will be tried separately from 2 defendants who requested speedy trials. Lawyers Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesbrough will go to trial October 23rd. They're charged with racketeering. Prosecutors say the group carried out an illegal scheme to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. Trump and others charged asked to be tried separately. Some say they need more time to prepare for trial. Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis sought to charge all 19 together.
New whistleblower accusations call into question the government's handling of the investigation into the origins of COVID-19.
Kayla Gaskins and Angela Brown join us tonight to bring us the latest on COVID-19 as cases rise across the U.S. We get started tonight first with Kayla Gaskins.
A CIA whistleblower coming forward with concerning allegations.
This witness seems to be credible, so we have to follow all leads on that, and we will.
The anonymous agency insider telling Republican congressional investigators the CIA bribed its own COVID origins team to change their opinion on where COVID-19 came from. According to this individual, 6 of the 7 members of the team believed the intelligence and science were sufficient to make a low-confidence assessment that COVID-19 originated from a laboratory in Wuhan, China. This is the lab where experiments on coronaviruses were already taking place. But then, the CIA offered 6 analysts significant monetary incentives to change their position, says the whistleblower. In June, officials said the CIA was unable to make a decision on the pandemic's genesis. The House Oversight Committee calls the source a highly credible senior-level CIA officer.
And hopefully we get full cooperation from the CIA and get to the bottom of this.
In response to the allegations, a CIA spokesperson released this statement. At CIA, we are committed to the highest standards of analytic rigor, integrity, and objectivity. We do not pay analysts to reach specific conclusions. If the allegations hold weight, they raise a slew of additional questions, like why a government agency would bribe officials to favor one origin theory over another. Republicans are asking the CIA to hand over additional documents and communications by September 26th. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
And the rise in COVID cases is reigniting the debate over mask mandates.
It certainly is, Amanda, and Angela Brown joins us now to explain why some lawmakers are already introducing legislation to prevent a national mandate.
One bill banning federal mask mandates was introduced by Senate Republicans. That bill was killed by Senate Democrats, but more legislation could be on the way. Signs like this one requiring a mask are popping up more often as COVID cases creep up. CDC Director Dr. Mandy Cohen.
I think we all wish we could leave COVID in the rearview mirror, but it's still here. And unfortunately, it's still causing harm.
Right now, the White House giving no signs of bringing back widespread COVID mandates. Instead, punting the decision back to the states using CDC guidelines.
It is up to the schools. It is the decisions of the districts at a level, right, to decide what they want to do with the guidelines that they've been provided by CDC.
Just last week, an elementary school in Maryland sparking concern among parents after reinstating a mask mandate for kindergartners after several people tested positive for COVID.
I can tell you moms and dads across the country are mobilizing like never before. And if any elected official at any level of government thinks that they're about to get a pass by imposing mask mandates again, they have another thing coming to them.
Which brings us back to the sign outside of the Dallas County Courthouse in Alabama. Our team in Birmingham reporting it's a requirement with exceptions, and those not wanting to wear a mask won't be denied services.
And I think it would just really be based off of unfortunately, the political lines. In some areas, the people are going to be more accustomed to complying with that mandate versus other areas where they're going to be more resistant to it.
To join the discussion on mask mandates, go to my TikTok page at Angela Gets Answers. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Hurricane Lee is headed for the mainland as New England residents prepare for the worst. Find out what effects we can expect to see in the southeast after the break.
Well, tonight we are taking a live look in Boston as heavy rain, high winds, and coastal flooding are threatening several states along the northeastern U.S. East Coast. Hurricane Lee, currently a Category 1 storm, is churning past Bermuda and tracking just east off New England shores. Forecasters say that severe storm impacts could be felt by many in that region throughout the weekend. Laura Aguirre has the latest on how residents are preparing for a stormy few days.
Ben Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you have planned to fail.
That message reverberating among emergency planners along the northern U.S. East Coast Thursday.
Even if it's not a direct hit, are we going to experience tropical storm force winds?
Hurricane Lee is churning past Bermuda and could weaken as it travels north. Still, forecasters predict it will bring high winds, heavy rain, and coastal flooding as it barrels near or over Maine by Saturday. Storm surge alerts up to 3 feet stretch along much of New England's coast, even higher in places like Cape Cod and Nantucket, Massachusetts. Many residents say they'll ride it out.
You get to the point where you question, like, how much more can it take? But, you know, we've built it back up each time.
In Saco Bay, Maine, an Army Corps of Engineers jetty spur project would help reduce storm impacts and erosion. Congress has approved it, but hasn't authorized federal funds to be spent yet.
Because they haven't done anything, we're defenseless.
Some towns are taking before pictures of their coastal areas.
Being able to document what the property looked like pre-storm versus post-storm is really helpful if you have to kind of put in any type of an insurance claim.
As of Thursday, hurricane force winds stretched nearly 100 miles from Lee's center. Even at sea, this storm packs a punch. I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
Impacts from Lee. It's going to shift our winds, which could bring us some storms for tomorrow morning, but tomorrow night for any Friday night high school football games should be staying dry. I think we'll hold on to some lingering clouds at kickoff time, mostly cloudy, 75 degrees, and we'll keep those mostly cloudy conditions as temperatures cool down into the low 70s by the final play, but really shouldn't have to worry about any rain for tomorrow afternoon and evening. So let's go live on our Wilson Bryant Heating and Air Skycast Network, looking out over Macon. The roads downtown, they're damp, they're glistening, still a lot of gray skies out there. We have had some more downpours, but it's cooling temperatures off into the low 70s. So that's at least some good news. We still do have the severe thunderstorm warning. That's for portions of Bleckley, Dodge, and Pulaski County until 6 o'clock. So if you live in this area, you really do want to stay weather aware, get away from the windows. But the rainfall rates here up to about 2.5 inches. So that's pretty substantial rainfall. Remember, if you're driving tonight, never drive into flooded roads, but this could be producing some damaging winds, potentially of 60 miles per hour. But it's a pretty large amount of rain that's falling right now, pushing into Lawrence County along I-16 near Dublin. That's really the heaviest downpour with frequent lightning, but over into Wilkinson County, down through Twiggs and into Houston County, still getting a pretty moderate downpour. Things will be quieting down the farther into the evening to go, but notice there's a band of clouds that's really stretching across the south all the way from Georgia here over to Texas. That cold front is providing some of that extra lift. Here's Lee, continues to track to the north, but it's going to give us a wind out of the northeast. So that's why I think there will be a few storms around for tomorrow morning. Tonight, though, once those storms clear out, partly cloudy down to 67 degrees in Macon. Getting ready for Friday morning, you may want to pack the umbrella heading out the door. This is about 8 o'clock. The best chance of seeing some rain should be Macon and northwards, but a few areas of drizzle. The farther into the day we go, I think we hold those clouds, but the rain chances will go down. For the first half of the weekend, we should be staying dry. Well, Saturday's looking pretty good, but Sunday, another cold front will be pushing through, giving us some scattered storms, but drying us out for early portions of next week. So here's Hurricane Lee right now. Category 1 storm, winds of 85 miles per hour. This is going to keep tracking off to the north. We're not really going to have any direct impacts here, but likely making landfall now somewhere near Nova Scotia as a low-end Category 1 or a remnant low. But what we could really see, what's noticeable, is going to be right along our coast. We do have a high risk for rip currents, and winds could be up to 4 to 7 feet. So if you're heading down to the Atlantic coast over this weekend or know anyone, really not a good idea to be in the water, but really not going to be impacting us here in middle Georgia. So in your 10-day forecast, a few scattered thunderstorms mostly through the morning hours up to 84 degrees. Saturday's looking really nice, mostly sunny, 84 as well. And the next best chance of rain will come for the second half of the weekend on Sunday with another cold front that'll be pushing through. But this one's pretty powerful, be wiping out the moisture. The beginning of next week's looking really nice, bright sunshine, temperatures in the mid 80s, humidity will be dropping as well. So really nice last few days of summer. Wednesday, sunny, 85, and next Thursday, also mostly sunny with a high of 85 degrees. Lastly, here's your Harrison's Body Shop fishing game forecast. Peaks at 2:40 a.m. and 3 p.m. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here again today at the Humane Society of Houston County. I'm joined again by Dee, and we got a special girl we're going to tell you about right now.
This is Onion. Onion came in, and you'll see Killer in just a little bit. That's her buddy. They don't have to be adopted together, but they would prefer if we can do that.
Yeah.
She's a little bit middle-aged, and as you can tell, we're working on the diet situation with her.
Yeah.
Very sweet, housebroken. She likes other dogs. Unfortunately, her buddy only likes her.
All right, so we're talking about Onion right now. This is Onion, and Dee, if someone would like to adopt Onion and her buddy, how would they go about, or even just Onion? I mean, how would they go about doing that?
They would go to our website and fill out our application on the Humane Society of Houston County. Please allow 7 to 10 days to process your application.
All right, let's go ahead and take care of that today. Let's find Onion a really, really good home. Thank you so much, Dee.
Thank you.